Hi, welcome back to Wildcard FPL. It's game week 21 coming up and people are already talking about their wildcards, but have you decided what wildcard team you're going to pick? Well, we've got one for you right here. Stick around for the end of the video and we'll go through it. But in the meantime, for those people who don't know what a wildcard is, maybe it's your first season, we're going to go through the rules and tell you our tips.
Wildcards, how to use them. Look, when we make transfers, normally we get one free transfer a week. And if we make more than one free transfer a week, we get penalized 4 points for doing so. With a wildcard, you can change your entire team and you don't get penalized at all. That's kind of the basics of it. You can make as many transfers as you like and you don't get penalty points for it. What we always say, Bear, look, you try and give yourself like a couple of days to let it bed in. I've seen people playing wildcards like an hour before the deadline. Give yourself plenty of time. If you're going to play it, press the button now and start thinking about that process already.
Just to clarify then, Steve, how is this different to a free hit card?
Free hit, basically you can change your entire team, but it's for 1 week only. And after that week, it then reverts back to whatever your original team was. You'd use a free hit for things like double game weeks or blank game weeks. So you're trying to give yourself a way of getting 11 players out on the pitch. It's like a short-term fix. If you've got longer-term problems, like half of your team have gone to AFCON or Asia Cup, clearly a wild card is a permanent solution to that problem. It doesn't revert back to your original team.
So essentially you're trying to fix big problems in your team that you know are going to be around for a while. It's not something you want to fix and then put back next week. You're essentially picking a whole new team.
Free hit's more of like an opportunistic thing. If Liverpool and Man City have a double game week coming up in the same game week, you would probably want to play a free hit and jump on that and get as many of those in your team as possible. But then you wouldn't want to be left with 6 players from just those 2 teams. Wildcard is a permanent fix to those problems long term. Free hit is a 1 week shot.
With my team right now, I've got currently 4 players who are off to AFCON or the Asia Cup and 2 more players who are deeply injured. I mean, is this something I should be thinking about right now?
Very likely. The way to look at it is, how many transfers have you got in the bank? If you've got 2 free transfers in the bank, great. I can take a -4. I can swap out 3 players. That might well get me to putting out a decent 11, and then I can wait to the following game week to try and do something similar again to try and fix my problems. If you only have 1 free transfer, then a -4 or a -8 can start to be quite hefty. So yeah, I reckon once you get into the realms of I'm struggling to get an 11 out, I've got 3 or 4 injuries, if you've got the wildcard option, it may be better to take it, especially if those injuries are not going to clear up in the next 4 to 5 weeks.
So there's not much else to say, Steve, apart from for you to take us through this team you've put together. Who's on the squad for the wildcard?
For goalkeepers, I've gone pretty template in what most people have at the moment, which is Dubravka and Areola. You could have an Edison there, you could have an Alisson in there, but Dubravka is on similar sort of predicted points for the next few weeks as someone like Alisson. I think Dubravka and Areola rotate well. I'm not going to mess too much with that formula, and it also does leave some money in the bank for later down the line when we want to start getting the likes of Salah, Son back in, or even moving to De Bruyne.
The key thing to remember is even though we're changing the whole team here, that doesn't just give you free rein to spend all the money, because we're going to need that money for transfers in a week or 2. So it is always good to keep a bit of spare cash going.
If you want to get Salah back in for somebody and you've spent all your money, you're almost always going to be needing to try and save 2 free transfers, or either that or taking hits, which at that point in the season could be really costly for your rank.
Absolutely. So who have we got in defence?
In defence, we've gone with Gabriel of Arsenal. I really wanted an Arsenal defender in there. He's cheaper than Saliba. Arsenal are in terrific form at the moment, but I think they're going to turn it around. Gabriel's in there just because he's nailed and he is the cheaper of the 2 or 3 defenders around him. I've got Pedro Porro from Spurs. He's on set pieces. I know Maddison is coming back soon, but I still think he's worth having in there. You and I did talk about potentially at some point downgrading him to Mickey van der Ven to still get some Spurs clean sheet points and defensive points in there. And he is a lot cheaper, but I think right now money isn't that much of an issue. Next up is Trippier. Look, this is a last minute addition. I had Trent Alexander Arnold in here until we heard that he's got some knee issues, and he's going to be out for 3 weeks. The thing that's weird about that is that 3 weeks is a long time, but it might only be like 1 Premier League game.
Yeah, there's a long wait till the next couple of games, isn't there?
So there's every chance he might actually be fit and ready for that. But looking at the games that he might be ready for, I think it's Arsenal or Chelsea or something like that. So actually, it's probably not that bad an idea to not have him in the team at this point. I've gone for Trippier because he is a premium defender. He's on set pieces. He's nailed. So yeah, he's straight in. Doty, we did have Bell in this position, but we've been able to upgrade him to Doty with Trent not being in the team. I really like Doty. He'll be in a lot of people's wildcard templates, I'm sure of it, just because he plays regularly for Luton and he's been getting some really nice returns. Last on here is one of my favourite FPL players, Estepinian, and I can't wait to get him back into my side. He's already delivering some FPL points, so really, really, really great to have him back in. And he can score, assist, and get clean sheets. Really great asset.
And so what about midfield then? Let's move up to some more attacking players.
First one I'll go over to is Saka. I think he's the most at risk. I feel like I've just got to have him in there. There's so few premium midfielders around at the moment who are actually delivering. You know, we've got no Salah, no Son. De Bruyne's still probably finding his way back. Saka, for this price tag, I think he's probably just about okay. He's still delivering an assist here, a goal here. If Bowen wasn't yellow Dorito, then maybe Saka would be out and Bowen would be in. But right now, Saka's in there. Next player is Gross. He's really caught my eye over the last couple of games. Matoma and Adingra have gone away on international duty, and Gross finds himself suddenly, he's on set pieces, and he's suddenly a really attacking asset. He's laying off passes. He created 2 goals for his team at the weekend. I like his stats. I really like what I've seen from him over the last couple of weeks. When you look at his fixtures, Bear, I've never seen fixtures like it. I think I've got to have him in there. The next player, Foden, in here, he's doing so well at the moment, and I still think he will be in that team for a good few weeks. I think De Bruyne will take a few weeks to find his way back. Yeah, he just looks nailed at the moment. I can't not have him in there. And the same with Palmer. Palmer is easily Chelsea's best player by a very, very long way. I absolutely love watching him play. He looks like a great technician. We know he's nailed. He's on penalties. He looks really consistent in terms of points delivery. And, you know, how much is he? Like 5 point something?
5.6.
Enjoy him now at that price, because next season he'll be 8 million. No problem. Last one on the list is a risky one. Diogo Jota. He was also in my differential short. Every time this guy plays, he just comes on and does something. Diogo Jota has come on the last 2 games and he's just changed the game immediately.
Yep.
He's direct. He scores goals, he assists. I really like him as a player. Sooner or later, Klopp's just going to start playing him through the middle.
Absolutely. And with the lack of Salah and Enzo and Szoboszlai as being Doritoed at the moment, you know, he should get more time, and more time should bring more goals, you would expect. So he's a good pick for midfield. And that only leaves the strikers. Who have we got up front in Wildcard 21 team?
Pretty standard with Watkins. He just looks like he's having a great season. He just looks a little bit... He's getting close to being fixture-proof. He normally gets a return. He seems to be way more on the assist side of things than goals. But look, hey, I always think if your striker is getting a return, even if it's just an assist, it's something.
Yeah.
You know, the last game, I think it was 2 assists he got, wasn't it? And it's just nice. It's just nice to have that consistent ticking along, getting you points. He's going nowhere.
Yep.
I'm going to talk about the robot, the giant blonde robot baby, who is Erling Haaland. I've got him in there. You might have a wildcard draft where you might actually just choose to have Alvarez instead, and I totally get that. I just think we're going to see him.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see him v Newcastle.
Yeah, I mean, we did talk previously about having Haaland in there versus not, because he has a lot of money, obviously, if he isn't playing. But one thing you have to consider, like we've said before, if you're doing your wild card, you're going to still need to figure out your money in a couple of weeks. And when Haaland does come back full time, we're going to want him in the team. If you spread your money too thin without him right now, you're going to be in a problem where maybe you have to make 3 changes, and that might be a -4 or a -8. So you can get him in now. The rest of the team is so good. You can play a 3-5-2 without Haaland, and you've got him there ready for when he's coming back in.
It feels like something's going to happen. I don't know. Yeah, like they're going to play Newcastle. It's going to be a big game. I feel like he's going to come on last 20 minutes, score a couple of goals, but yeah, we'll see. I guess we'll find out and see who's right.
And we've just got the centre forward now to discuss. Who else have we got on the front row?
I've got Cunha in there, and he was the last player to feature in my differentials short. So actually, all of the differential guys are in here. Cunha is someone who's been delivering tons of points lately. 85 points so far this season.
Yep.
That's sensational for someone playing. He's playing for Wolves. He's gone a little bit under the radar. We know that Cunha is just someone who's delivering points, and he's actually not being talked about that much. At 5.8 million, he is an enabler in your team. So he will enable you to get other players in at higher values in other positions. And he can just sit there and chip away and score you tons of FPL points. I think for me, it's a no-brainer.
It's a really nice choice to have up there, and he does seem to be in a bit of a purple patch.
The other one that people are talking about is Ivan Toney. That for me feels different. That I can't quite get on board with that. Brentford are not Man City.
No.
Number one, and their whole team doesn't create as many chances as Man City. I think it will take Toney a little while to come back. But I've seen people online who are not only are they bringing him in, he's their captain for this week. What do you reckon? What do you reckon to that? I think you've been an Ivan Toney man in the past.
I have, yeah. I'm a diehard Ivan Toney man. I mean, I've been burnt one too many times by Brentford this season. It just doesn't seem like something's clicking. Now, there's been some rumours about Toney going to Arsenal. I don't know whether that's been quashed now, but if Toney was on the Arsenal squad, I feel like he'd be a must-buy for me. I feel like that's the only thing that Arsenal have been missing in order to have a much better season from what they've had. And Toney up front for them, yeah, he'd be straight into my team, and I'd have some real trouble deciding whether between Watkins and another striker to fit Toney in. But right now for Brentford, I don't see it. So I think that's a bit too much of a gamble for me. That's a similar reason why we haven't got De Bruyne in this team as well, because we know how good De Bruyne is, but he's played something like 6 minutes this season so far, and without seeing him play, I think he's just a bit too risky to be in the team for the price he is, compared to somebody like Foden who is on form. I mean, yeah, bring De Bruyne in later on if he is on fire, but right now, you know, I want to see at least one match out of him before I spend all the money on him. So yeah, it's going to have to wait for me. It's looking really solid. I'm certainly tempted. Like I said, I've got a lot of Doritos to be dealing with. I woke up this morning like everybody else with the news that Trent was going to be out for a few weeks, so it put extra pain on my team and made my decision maybe slightly easier. But at the moment, I'm not sure whether I'm going to pull the trigger on the wild card. I know you're not, are you? You're waiting for your transfers.
I'm not, but the only reason I'm not is that I did manage to save up 2 free transfers, and I already had a couple of these players in my team already, so I'm not as desperate. But you know what? It's, you know, when by the time the deadline hits at 6:15 on Friday, who knows how many more players will be injured by then? I may well be pressing the wildcard active button like everybody else. Sometimes, even if you're not playing your wildcard, it's great to watch content like this about who you would bring in, because actually it helps you sort of think about maybe those 2 free transfers or even the 1 free transfer that you've got. It can help you kind of make a decision on that. You might see some players in this wildcard draft where you think to yourself, actually, yeah, I do quite like that. I hadn't really considered that as an option. I'm going to do that as my 1 free transfer. So I think it's always good to have helpful content like that.
Absolutely. And I know one of the friends of the channel, Tommy, he's thinking about using his wildcard a little bit later to bring Son and Salah back in when he's got a bit more trouble with finances to deal with, which is always a good option. You know, you got to move a lot of people around to get expensive players back in. So we will be making more wildcard content around the sort of periods where people will be using the cards to give you a few tips and pointers on how to use it. But in the meantime, if you're using your wildcard this week, let us know in the comments down below if there's any different players that you've chosen for your team. Maybe let us know where we've gone wrong. But in the meantime, if you're enjoying this content, make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss out in the future, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.